the show. It's time to go around the national, and yes, the carousel continues. Mike Johnson is officially out. He's got a game to do. He's doing
revolving door here.
This is line changes. This is just like hockey.
It is.
Yeah.
Hop over the boards.
Yeah, listen, I'm getting a lot of ice time, apparently. I wish I could take a shift off, but I don't get that luxury. But good to have you both for this segment. And I want to start on the topic of the Olympics because they are around the corner. We know that the players want to go. But now we're hearing that, with Robin Lehner saying that, he's not going to go for his own reasons, being in the bubble was hard for him because of his own personal issues and that sort of thing from the past. And I totally respect that decision and understand it. But I think you look at the fact that these players, when they go over there, if they test positive for COVID while in Beijing, they have to quarantine there for 3 weeks. So I feel like that complicates the decision a little bit. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe every player in the league is like, nope, if I'm picked for the Olympic team, I'm going hell or high water, like I'm going to be there. If it was you, Dano, would it be a harder decision because of the current state of the pandemic?
No question it would be a harder decision. It's such a great honor to get picked for your country, obviously, and you want to play with the best players in the world, and that's what's on display if it's National Hockey League players for each country. But do you want to get stuck, even if it's 1 in 100th of a chance, Billy, of getting COVID and getting stuck in a foreign country that maybe you're not accustomed to and being alone?
It's hard. It's hard to be isolated.
So I think it does make it a little bit more difficult, but I'm interested to see and very intrigued by what the players think here, Billy. And still have a little bit of time, but it's a decision that has to be made because it alters the National Hockey League schedule.
Well, imagine if you're a player, right? And maybe you're like going into a gold medal game or a bronze medal game, and you're near the end of that 2-week tournament or however long it is, and you test positive. Yeah, the chances are small, but if you do, you're stuck there for 3 weeks. You're missing regular season games with your team, and depending what team you play for, you could be fighting for a playoff spot, and you're shot at playing for the Stanley Cup. And you're not getting the right workouts and everything when you're in quarantine. So it's not just going to affect you for the 3 weeks. It's absolutely going to affect your play when you finally do get back and get into the lineup. I just think it's a hard choice.
Last thing from me, general managers, I think, would be extremely worried and hanging on the edge of their seat as far as making sure their guys are healthy. Because, it alters completely what your team is going to be in the National Hockey League if something does go bad.
How important is it to go there? Have you won a gold medal before? Have you been part of it? If you have, do you want to go chase it again? A lot of these players want to represent your country, but it's a tall task. That's a long ways to go. And then the NHL teams have to be holding their breath. Not only because of COVID, do you come back, but does one of my players get hurt? There could be an injury over there, and everyone's trying to get to that Stanley Cup. And the players, too, the gold medal is important in a brief tournament, but the Stanley Cup, once you're in the NHL, that is your ultimate goal. You want to win the Stanley Cup, and now you might put this in jeopardy because you go over there, test positive for COVID. You look at the list of negative things that go into the Olympics versus the positive.
Do you think the negative outweigh?
At this point, there's a lot of negative things. Two, also look, you've had a couple of games canceled for the New York Islanders, 3 games canceled for the Ottawa Senators. You have to fill in some games. You got to make up some dates. So all of a sudden, you're starting to cram your schedule some more. If there's another outbreak on a team where they have to miss some games, then all of a sudden the NHL gets into a problematic scheduling fit where they have to cram games in. So there's a lot going into this decision going over there for these players and the NHL and their teams.
Yeah, I think I do wonder, and I think, maybe I'm crazy, maybe all the players want to win or play in the Olympics so badly that the majority are like, I'm going no matter what. And I'm sure there are players that feel that way. I just wonder if it differs, to your point, player to player. If you've already won an Olympic gold medal, if you've already accomplished some of those things, maybe do you think about it even just a little bit more than you would in a normal year? But it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I just thought it was an interesting conversation.
It is and
maybe I don't know either.
It's a very difficult decision.
I wonder too if maybe there will be conversations, with the Olympic Committee about, okay, if a player tests positive over there, can they come home? Can we get them out of the country and have them do their quarantine at home or change, because I think it's easier, obviously, to be isolated in your own home as opposed to some hotel in a foreign place that you don't have anyone. You know what I mean?
Jackie, to your point of if you're a first-time player getting an opportunity to play in the Olympics. Well,
you look at it different
you
than Sidney Crosby, maybe.
Now, if you're Canada, U.S., you probably could ice 2 teams, really, right? Mm-hmm. So they're still going to be competitive if they decide to go over in some key players that you know would make the team, as far as for Team Canada or USA, per se. Well, you're still going to be a good team, competitive team, a team that has a chance to win a gold.
All right, time will tell.
Just back from the Board of Governors meetings in Florida, along with David Amber. Here's Elliotte Friedman, Jeff Merrick, and let's start with you, Elliotte.
All right, the Olympics. In the next few days, the players will be invited on Zoom and conference calls where they'll be informed of the specific protocols for the Olympics and ask questions about them. And Jeff, from what we understand, they are going to be stiff.
Oh boy, these are snug, Elliotte, as you mentioned. So first of all, the main thing, if an athlete tests positive, you cannot leave China until cleared by local health authorities. And here's the whopper. Maximum quarantine could be between 3 to 5 weeks. Now, if an athlete does test positive and are symptomatic, to get out of quarantine, you need to be symptom-free and pass 2 COVID tests within 24 hours. If asymptomatic, can be allowed out of quarantine with 2 negative tests 24 hours apart. One thing that I asked the NHL Players Association about this afternoon is this scenario. What if a player's had COVID in the last 90 days, tests negative here, but then when arriving in Beijing, tests positive? It could happen. That's now being considered an open issue, and it's one of the things they'll be discussing tomorrow during a medical call, Ron and Elliotte, between the IOC, IIHF, NHL, and the NHL Players Association as well. Another thing, we're all waiting for the athlete's handbook, Elliotte. We're expecting that on Tuesday.
Neil, the other thing here, too, is that there's an agreement between the league, the Players Association, and the International Ice Hockey Federation. What happens if you miss games once the NHL resumes because of COVID-related illness in the Olympics? Well, the NHL doesn't have to pay players in that situation, and the IIHF came up with a $5 million fund to cover that. But Ron, one question that's being asked here that we don't have a clear answer to yet is, what happens if that fund runs out and there are still players who are not healthy enough to play? The league says they're clear in that situation. The Players Association disputes it. But I'm sure the players are going to be sitting there saying, are we going to agree to do this until we know we have the answer to this question? So there's a lot to unpack here. And all in all, I wish maybe we could have found a way to do the Olympic tournament in North America if they couldn't go to China.
Okay, well, listen, you were both there, and what you've just said makes the players have to think and think again. But if you were to put a percentage on it right now, everybody wants to know that answer. You saw Gary Bettman say it's up to the players. I felt good. Now I'm kind of worrying. What do you think?
Ron, I don't want to put a percentage on. Look, I think a lot of players want to go. I really think they do, but I think they're wary. 5 weeks, 3 to 5 weeks.
Could that change?
You know what?
I think they're going to wait right up until the last possible moment to make the decision.
Here's what one NHL general manager, Ron, told me this afternoon, because I asked a similar question, and his point was this. This, it seems, has gone from being a player-driven thing to being a player-doubted thing. And now that the idea of a 3 to 5 week quarantine, to Elliott's point we just told you a couple of seconds ago, is now out, I think that's going to give players cause for pause.
Yeah, that's the sense that what you just said comes at me with. Board of Governors, one other thing, the cap.
Yeah, so salary cap. So a couple of things here. So Bill Daly and Gary Bettman talked about the salary cap and how business trending towards $5 billion, and that means an increase to the salary cap of $1 million this year. Gary Bettman mentioned something interesting as well, said in 3 seasons, so this season and after the next 2 seasons, the NHL players will have paid off their escrow debt, and the salary cap will get a significant bump, and that pleased 2 Canadian teams specifically. The Maple Leafs and the Vancouver Canucks, Austin Matthews and William Nylander's deals are up then. And for the Vancouver Canucks, Elliotte, whomever the general manager is, will have a clean slate to work on Elias Pettersson's next contract.
Well, that's a good lead-in, because that's what we're going to talk about next, Jeff. So Jim Rutherford meets the media on Monday for the first time as the president and interim general manager of the Vancouver Canucks, and he has begun to start a list of who could possibly be the full-time GM. Now, one of the questions is he going to get permission to talk to people in season? That will be an issue. There's going to be a lot of talk about panel favorite Jason Botterill, who's currently in Seattle and has a history with Rutherford. But one dark horse name to keep an eye on is Patrick Alvin from Pittsburgh. He worked with Rutherford with the Penguins, was the interim GM after Penguin left and before Ron Hextall took over. And the final thing we have just for you, Blake Wheeler. You know, he was injured last night in the Jets-Vancouver game. You could hear Paul Maurice talk about post-game about concern about the injury. No official update yet, but it does sound like the Jets are bracing for a lengthy absence here. 1,000th game earlier on, good ceremony for him. He got his first goal of the year. It seemed to be trending all in the right direction. Hope for a speedy recovery, but there is concern.
First openly gay referee in the American Hockey League, Dre Baroni, hit the ice on Wednesday night after doing Christine Simpson's The Big Picture, and I thought, wow, the crosshairs. He's right there in the media crosshairs, and he was incredible. He and the crew had a couple of penalties in the first period, a couple in the second, none in the third, a one-goal game. Honestly, Jeff, like a dream for the crew and especially for Dre.
Absolutely. And the supervisor for that game, Dan McCourt, former NHL linesman, very pleased with Baroni's efforts. He's next on the ice. Calling him, Ron, on the 28th as Belleville takes on Syracuse.
Congratulations, Josh, his partner. 25 family and friends in attendance in Laval, which is basically Dre's hometown. Brand new day at Dre Baroni.
So with this increased number of cases, Elliotte, how does it impact the potential for the NHL to actually follow through and participate in the Olympics?
Well, at the Board of Governors meeting, EJ, I was told that the commissioner told the governors they should expect to be going, except in two cases. One, that too many games got canceled, or two, the players decided not to go because they didn't like the protocols. And look, we're at 8 games now canceled, 2 of which have been rescheduled. And, you know, I think the challenge with Calgary in particular, guys, is look at these games that were canceled. One is against Toronto, and it means the Maple Leafs might have to come west for one game. And those aren't as easy to schedule because Toronto, knock on wood, will get its opportunity still to play Vancouver, Edmonton, and Seattle on this trip. And Toronto's already made its West Coast western swing already, too, through California. So that's a problem. And Calgary will have to go to Chicago and Nashville. And even though those are teams they play a bit more often, it's not an easy trip. These are the first really, really tricky ones that they have to fix. But again, I'm not sure 8's going to be enough. I still think the protocols and the IOC kind of told the players about it on Friday night. And there were 2 conference calls today, and there's supposed to be one on Wednesday for the players to talk with the Players Association and ask all their questions. I still think we've got a bit of time to wait. I think the players are going to take their time to think about this. I think we'll still get a decision closer to around January 10th, maybe later. But no doubt, guys, the last 72 to 96 hours have not been good for the Olympics. We'll see.
All right, Elliotte, let me change the topic here and get us caught up on Jack Eichel. It's less than a month after the surgery, but he is back on the ice. What can you tell us about his rehab process right now?
Well, I was just looking down here. I just got a text message a few minutes ago, EJ, about it because I knew that you were going to ask, and I figured for once I would be prepared. So this is what I can tell you. I've heard his rehab is going well. He remains in Charlotte, and it's possible he will come to Vegas early in the new year. So they sound optimistic, and we'll see when we get to the point where he rejoins the Golden Knights. But it looks like right now the plan is early in the new year if everything continues to go well, and we're all hoping it does.
Yes, we are. Absolutely. It would be great to see Jack Eichel back in the National Hockey League. Elliotte, thanks so much, and thanks for taking the time to do that extra work for us today. We appreciate it.
You know what? Like, normally I would really like to show up unprepared, but I figured for once I would fool you and do better.
Well, as the guys here would tell you, I do that every day. So thanks, Elliotte. We appreciate it.
All right,
I think
guys,
he spent all his time getting prepared. Forgot to do his hair for this hit. That's the thing.
Listen, guy's got good hair.
Actually, he's got a lot of it anyway.
Look at him. Look at that hair.
He drove his convertible to work today.
Come on. Listen.
You know what, Mike? The people have an expectation, and the expectation is I'm not showing up looking clean. That's what
You never let us down, man. You're
Yeah,
consistent.
that's right.
Thanks, Elliotte.
All right, guys, take care.